Yes. Yeah, it's pretty big. It's pretty massive. It's pretty massive. So let's invite our guest on stage. A man from a group who've kind of broken the rules for what it's possible for a rock band to do, and they've done that again with this film. This isn't about metal. This isn't about thrash or rock. This is just about one of the greatest bands of all time. From Metallica, Lars Ulrich.
The filmmaker. All right.
How you doing?
I'm doing great. Nice to see you again.
Nice to see you too.
This is our second interview today.
This is, yeah. We're like old friends now.
You already know all the answers. You just tell them.
No, this is going to be new stuff. You meet.
Wait, just hang. How cool? Are we actually in the store?
Yeah, this is the store.
How cool is this? Let's go shopping. Let's go shopping. Forget about this. Cool.
Meet the filmmaker. This is cool. You kind of saw that and you laughed. Why?
Well, it's I'm trying not to take it too seriously.
Right.
Meet the filmmaker. Next up is a real filmmaker. No, it's cool. I'm gonna actually send that to our director Nimrod. So, like we talked about before. I mean, it's we're sort of out of our comfort zone, but we also love being out of our comfort zone. So making movies is not sort of our day job, but increasingly we find that communicating all these different experiences to Metallica fans is really kind of turning us on. And so whether it's having our own festival or making movies or whatever, it's kind of fun because when we go back into the studio and into our comfort zone, then we've had all these kind of surreal experiences, and hopefully we can bring something different back, and it'll sort of invigorate us a little bit. But seeing the word filmmaker next to my silly Danish name, that's just kind of surreal. But there it is. I'll make sure and get a picture of that before I leave.
So we're going to hear from the fans in a minute, but I wanted to talk to you first. I mean, I kind of tried to describe the film as like half live concert, half surreal adventure. How would you describe it? It's out tomorrow and people will be able to see it for themselves. How would you describe the movie?
Well, it's a hybrid, first of all.
Good word.
It's a word that we've heard ourselves say a lot in the last month. I would say the easiest way is probably to say it's a dramatic film that takes place in the setting of a concert. So the concert is kind of the backbone of all the action and the events, and then there's a story that features. Can they see this?
Yeah, they can
so
see
they
the big
can
screen.
see,
Yeah.
That's Dane DeHaan, our lead actor, and he plays a character named Trip, and he's sort of like a runner. Some people call him a roadie. I think in England he's more like a T-boy. So he gets sent on errands, and he gets sent. He's a big Metallica fan, and he ends up having this kind of contrary. He's at the gig, he wants to see the gig, but then he gets pulled away from the gig and gets sent on this errand, and then he goes out into the world, and then there's a bunch of very unfortunate events that come his way while the concert's playing. So you sort of go back between the concert and his journey through this. As you can see, this kind of apocalyptic nightmare setting. Yeah, he's not having a good night.
So you were actually involved, in fact, the whole band were involved in that kind of story as well as doing the concert. You were kind of involved in sort of writing it, weren't you?
Well, I mean, credit where credit's due. I mean, Nimrod Antal, our mad Hungarian director, it's mainly his idea. We all sort of shaped it into something that would, fit into the context of the concert and so on. But when we decided to partner up with Nimrod and that he was sort of our partner in crime, creative partner in crime for this, he went away and dreamt up the characters and the story, and came back to us 3 months later with a very unreadable script. I don't know if any of you guys know what scripts look like, but they're usually sort of like 100 pages and they have like dialogue in them. Here's a 15-page script that has no dialogue. It's just basically action sequences and sort of talking about what happens to this story and to this character. And it was an odd script to read, not just for us, but as we started, trying to get Dane involved and everybody else. It was a peculiar script, which we loved. We loved the madness of it and the craziness of it, but it's just unlike anything that we'd ever seen. And so if any of you guys are film students or whatever, it was kind of a different thing. But we knew that he was our guy because he kind of was ready for anything and ready for to take this kind of crazy leap with us.
Yeah, because it's not, I think it's important to say, it's not just like a concert with a couple of scenes. It's like a full film. We've actually got another clip of the movie, actually, if you want to have a look, and you'll see what I mean. Here's a bit more.
Okay, then.
You see what I mean?
That was, yeah, that was the Rob Trujillo mix. God damn.
We saw a bit of it there. If you're talking about the kind of live side of the whole thing, it's a hell of a stage set you've got going on. You caught a bit of it there with the overhead shot of your kit, but like the whole stage is a video screen on a scale. I think someone said this is the biggest indoor stage production that's ever been undertaken.
That sounds like something a publicist would say.
It's a pretty big show.
Yeah. It's pretty big. Yeah, I mean, over the course of the last 20 years, Metallica started playing. When we play indoors, we like to play in the round, as we call it. So that just we continue to try to come up with different ways of doing that. The one thing that's different about this stage compared to the last few stages is that this is a bit more theatrical. Some of you guys who've been with us for a while know that back in the 80s and the 90s, we did a lot of very theatrical stage presentations, Master Puppets and the Justice and the, what was her name, Doors and crosses and electric chairs and all kinds of silly stuff. And we brought some of that stuff back again in bigger, crazier, a little more ridiculous than it was back in the day, but sort of 2012-13 versions of it. There's a lot of fans who always come up and ask about this stuff, but I wasn't born yet, or I've never seen any of that. So we brought it back for one final encore. So there's a lot of that stuff going on the stage side of it.
It is kind of a sort of greatest hit sets as well. There's all the big tunes, many of the big tunes you could possibly want are in the performance, aren't they?
I'll refrain from using the word hits, but there are some of our production manager Dan Brown uses the word the favorite toe tappers. So there are some of those in there. So yes, there are. I mean, obviously, when you're doing a film at this scale, having songs in there that the audience knows helps, rather than the obscure rarities from the end of Reload or something. So there are some of the more well-known songs in there.
And you've made this film yourselves as a band. Normally, like with a big movie, a studio pays for this thing. You've done this yourselves. I mean, did you have to remortgage houses and sell T-shirts out the back of a van and kind of like, pawn a couple of drum kits to get the money together to do this?
There are T-shirts available out of the back of Matt and I have a truck out in the back. So
it's a big undertaking.
Well, yeah, it's a pretty big undertaking. It never seemed that big when we started. That's always the case. We just like to, if there's one thing that we're definitely guilty of is wanting to control everything, and we feel that's a way to get, so when you guys are at the receiving end of records or movies or whatever, that it's a way to get that you guys know that it's Metallica. It comes from us, so it's not a studio, or it's not other people that are doing it and just putting the Metallica name on. It comes from us, and we're certainly proud of that. We've never done anything quite at this scale, and it's been pretty overwhelming. Sometimes even bewildering.
What do you mean?
Well, it's just there's so many people involved in filmmaking. When you make records, it's the four of us in a fairly small, contained, intimate space. When you make films at this level, there's just so many different entities of people involved, and for people that like to, like I said, control their environment, there's just a lot of things you got to deal with. But we increasingly sort of look at Metallica as, I guess, hovering in our own bubble, existing in our own world, and we have our own record company now, and we have all our masters and our recordings, and we're just not big on sort of, I guess, if you bring partners in, then you sort of gotta listen to them, and you gotta wait. He wants this, and how about this, and can we change it, and the different edits. If we do it ourselves, then we know that nobody's gonna sit there and talk us out of whatever it is that we're thinking, no matter how crazy it is, for better or worse, actually.
Let's have another look at the film. We've got another clip as well, and then we'll go to the Q&A, and you guys can put some questions to Lars. So here's another clip of Beyond Through the Never. Who's the guy on the horse?
I have no idea. One of the characters of the film. He's, I I'm not even sure he had a name in the script. He's just like the guy on the horse. He may have a name. I can't remember. It was in the script. I wasn't there. We weren't there. I purposely didn't want to be there for the filming of the narrative because I felt that if I wasn't there, I would have a much better perspective to be able to sort of edit and do all that type of stuff. So it's a little bit. That was the only part of the movie I stayed away from was the 3 weeks of filming all the narrative and the exterior scenes.
Yeah. I think we should really open the floor. I think that's how they say it.
Open the floor.
Open the floor. We should do a bit of a Q&A from people. So we've got some mics going around. So put your hand up. Somebody. Who should we choose? Who should we choose? Who should we choose? There's somebody
Nice
just
tie.
there on the very, very front row.
I have to say that of everything I've done the last month, this is the closest the audience has been. I mean, we're practically up on stage.
You
It's
can
insane.
smell them.
It's insane.
That's just one.
Yeah. How are you? Huh? Yeah.
I just wanted to ask, how did you get someone like Dane involved? Because he's pretty up and coming and basically doesn't really get to speak in the film at all, apart from maybe singing along to Creeping Death at the beginning.
Well, a couple, 3 years, well, 3 years ago, I saw him in Chronicle, and literally one of those, I took my kids to see it, or my kids took me to see it, let's be truthful here, and I walked out of the theater literally like IMDbing him as I walked out. Who was that kid with his incredible magnetic face? And turns out it was Dane. I recognized him from In Treatment. And since then, he did a film with a good friend of mine named Directorial in France. He did The Place Beyond the Pines. And so when we were casting this about 15 months ago last summer, his name was the first name that came up, and I just called our producers and I said, we have to get this guy. There's no other choices. There's no other options. We have to get this guy. And so we just went to work, and I called Directorial in France, and our director called somebody, and I knew the agent a little bit, and we did all that stuff where you start making phone calls. And we got the script to him, and after he read it, I guess about 10 times and tried to make heads and tails of it like everybody else, he finally met our director, and they hit it off really well, and he agreed to do it. So he was the only guy that we even needed to go to, and he was so obvious for this part. So it wasn't like there was a casting call or any of that type of stuff. And he's insane. I saw him in Kill Your Darlings, which is coming out, and he's been cast in has filmed the new Spider-Man, and my friend Anton has cast him in his James Dean movie. He's going to be a really big, well-known actor in a couple years, and we could say that he was in our movie when he stops returning my phone calls in about 6 months from now.
You got that first.
Yeah, exactly.
He has got this amazing intensity to him, hasn't he? It's incredible.
And like you're saying, he does the whole movie without speaking. So it's all body language and mannerisms and that whole thing, which is even harder.
It's cool.
And on top of it, he's a really, really level-headed guy. Really cool to hang out with. So, there you go.
Let's have a question from that side of the room. Someone's just put their hand up in the far corner just over there. Grab a mic. Who are you? Where are you from? What's your question?
Hi Lars, I'm Dave.
Hey.
So the production and the set list showcased the whole of Metallica's history. I wondered if you wanted, or if you've been tempted to try and showcase Metallica's future and tempt us, with a new song.
If there were any written, we've done 2 or 3 go-arounds in the studio while they were in the initial editing stages, but there were no new songs for this. Like I said before, obviously there's a little bit more of a nod to the past than we often do, but it didn't seem like there should be a new song in this. At one point, really early on, it was talked about, but we just didn't have it together to even to get to that stage. So the new songs are coming, but they're not in this film.
We're looking forward to it.
And me too, trust me.
Yeah, when you say a few runarounds, I mean, like maybe you've done a few days in the studio, a few weeks in the studio, just to try and get a bit more information.
We've done probably three go-arounds of 2 to 3 weeks each.
Okay.
Basically, 95% of the new songs, they come from jams and from riffs and from stuff that pre-exists. So it's I think there was over 1,000 things to listen to, which is not something that you do in an afternoon or two. So basically, since we finished Death Magnetic a couple of 4 years ago, there's just a lot of stuff to listen to. So we've been combing through it and jamming on it and starting to put some riffs together and stuff like that. But don't hold your breath would probably be the the proper analogy here.
No, nothing in the next couple of weeks. Then we're pretty safe. No.
No, especially since I have to hear myself talk about this fucking movie for another couple of weeks. No.
Let's have another question. Where should we go? We go with that gentleman right in the middle, in front of the camera over there. How you doing, sir?
Hi, Lars.
Hey.
My name's John.
Hello, John.
Question about the Full Arsenal stage set that's used in this film. Are there any plans to bring it to the UK anytime soon for an arena tour? And if so, when?
Good question.
Well, that sounds way too logical. Bring this thing on tour.
Could you tour it? All that?
Yes. I don't know if we could do sort of back-to-backs. I don't know if we could do Glasgow, London back-to-back. But I don't know if it... I'm not sure of the logistics. There's some weight issues with roofs, and I don't know if it would sort of fit into the NEC, and I don't know if it would fit into sort of the standard 10 arenas in England. I'm sure it would fit into the O2. And so at some point,
O2. Then play the O2. Then you should play the O2.
And listen, you know,
this is how it starts.
It has been talked about, but right now we want to get to making a record, and so I think that we'll most likely tour this at some point, but not necessarily next. This may be the type of thing that we come back to. So we do another album and another tour, and then maybe the tour in between that and the next, maybe like 3 years from now or something. But it'll fit into some buildings. It won't fit into all buildings. But it would be fun to tour, obviously. And I think, obviously, after people have seen it in the theater, it could be fun to bring to everybody.
Good stuff. Right. So another question. There's some people kind of standing who deserve the microphone. Yes, you just there. Wonderful.
Hey man, how you doing? I'm Jack.
Hey.
What's up? Our manager, Sean Duffy's out of Chicago, is a good friend of Kirk's. And Kirk was explaining to him about, as you've already kind of touched on, the financial issue of having to put up the money yourselves, essentially, which I guess is probably a first for a while for you. From where I sit and from where we get it, we kind of get to come to some of your shows with Kirk. You're very, fuck it, let's do it, let's give it a go. Kirk is a little bit more... likes to think things through, and obviously you got Cliff and Peter at the back helping out. Was there any ever serious discussions about, whoa, hold on, this is a big thing suddenly to having to be putting the money in ourselves, or was it no, it's going to work? It'll it's a great risk to take.
That's an excellent question.
A lot of meetings. I imagine there was a lot of meetings.
I don't know. I mean, I'm not personally, just speaking for myself, I'm always the guy flying the flag for the creative vision, trumps everything. There's always somebody somewhere that goes, hang on a second. I may be guilty sometimes of not paying full attention to the hang on a second. I always think that our job, as the artist, I'm sorry if that sounds cheesy, but our job is to protect the purity of the creative journey, and to not let it be polluted by too much thinking, thoughts that may be about, appeal or business decisions. So I always fly the flag for trying to keep any of that type of stuff away from the creative endeavors. Obviously, financial conversations come up along the way, the funny thing is, of course, as I'm sure you can relate to, is that it never quite starts. I mean, it's not like, let's do this movie and then everything that we know about it now, it's always, let's do it, let's throw ourselves, let's build the stage, and then a year later, oops, that cost twice as much money as we expected, and none of it fucking works. And, and then, something else, and then something else, and something else, and all of a sudden you're just standing there going, God help us all. But it always starts from a very... pure place and a very innocent place, and I always love just the innocence and the kind of the just go for it attitude. I think some people call that irresponsible, but that's okay. I don't mind being the irresponsible one. Rather that than too much thinking. Somewhere it usually ends up balancing itself out, and if we sell enough of those T-shirts sitting in that truck out there afterwards, then maybe we'll get our houses back and all the rest of it. You know,
I can lend you 20 quid if you're a bit,
Thank you.
you're a bit hard up. Let's have another question. Gentleman with hand up came straight away there. Can we get a mic over to the front? Here we go. What's your name, man?
Hi, I'm Dimitri from Sofia, Bulgaria. First of all, I want to say thank you for everything that you have done and continue to do. Thank you for the inspiration. Thank you for everything.
Thank you.
And my question is, a while back, last week I saw an interview in which James said that there had been an idea of having a hologram of Cliff on stage. Why didn't this happen, and was there something else that you wanted to have in the movie but couldn't?
I've learned along the way to not comment too much on what Hetfield says and vice versa. It's like everybody says their truth at the moment, or at least close to it. So I think, was it a couple years ago? Was it the Tupac thing?
Yeah, that's right.
Was it?
It was a
Snoop or
hologram
somebody
of Tupac at Coachella. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. It may have come up in conversation for like 12 seconds. Obviously, Cliff's spirit is always around anything that Metallica does, and obviously, with has anybody seen the film? You've seen the film, so I won't give too much of it away. But there's a song in the film that certainly brings Cliff sort of full circle into this whole thing. So I think Cliff's spirit is always part of Metallica. I don't think necessarily Cliff's his presence is always needed physically or in an obvious way. It's just the spirit. But the hologram thing that you're referring to is not something that went very far. That conversation may have lasted just a couple seconds.
You are? Oh, I was just checking you weren't a hologram, just making sure. We're running out of time, so we should really get some more questions.
Come on, he's got a tie on today.
Okay.
Did you?
Dude's got a tie. You're looking good, man. Let's get a mic across to Sharp Just Man.
Hello, Lars. How are you?
Nice to see you again.
You
How
too.
are you, man?
It's been a while.
Are you
I live
working
here.
in? You live in London now.
Yeah, I moved here.
We know each other from these.
From the internet.
Yeah.
We met on the internet.
Big sword.
Yeah.
Big
Bring it
sword.
back. I'll ask you a film question.
Please.
So, yeah. So for 32 years,
Since I'm a filmmaker, it says
exactly.
that right
It
there.
says it there. Apple doesn't lie. So, 32 years musically, you've been setting trends and paving the way for young bands, and you've been always showing that change and creativity. There's always a thirst for this and for experimentation. Do you want to set this trend now with movies? Do you think that this film could possibly, be a kind of a benchmark for other bands to say, let's not just do a concert film, let's not just do a documentary, let's not have us filmed in a prayer circle being massaged, or out in the fields with poppies in our hair or something like that.
Paid attention along the way.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, I appreciate that question. When we started making this film, you know us well enough to know that we don't sit around and go, okay, it's time for us to make benchmarks for the rest of the bands out there. That's not how we roll. If anybody gets inspired by this film to look at conventional concert films with a slightly different view, obviously that would be great. But that would also be accidental. You know us well enough to know that we're sort of fairly inward looking. We don't sit there and think of all the ways this may or may not affect other people. We leave that up to everybody else to try to figure that out. Most of the time, as you know, we also don't know what we're doing. We just make it up as we go along. But it's been a lot of fun for us to do this, and I think increasingly for Metallica, for us to stay hungry and stay sort of invigorated and challenged by Metallica, we have to continue to sort of just find different ways to express ourselves creatively. If we were stuck in the kind of record tour grind, I think that we would just find that way too confining. So making movies, doing our festivals, answering the phone when Lou Reed calls, these types of things, they're a lot of fun for us, and I think they keep us alive. And I know that there's a few people who go, enough of all this other extracurricular shit, get back to making Metallica records. And we do hear you. We read every one of your comments. And we also know where you live, by the way. And we know what you had for breakfast. But, so in due time, but for us it's about a balance. I think that between Some Kind of Monster and this movie, we've done two pretty different film experiences. And I can't say that I'm sitting here right now going, fuck, I gotta make another movie. I'm happy to get some distance between filmmaking and myself for a while. But it may happen again. Maybe there'll be a Through the Never Part 2. Who knows? Probably not, but who knows? I've learned to never say never around here. So we'll see where it takes us, but it's not on the agenda right now. Now we want to get back to making another record and getting back to the intimacy of the studio.
Thanks, man.
Thank you.
And the final question.
That's 40 minutes already?
Apparently so.
Really? Who's giving you the wind-up signal? That guy, Steve? Okay, wait, let me get my iPhone out.
Who should it be? Who should we choose for the final question? There's...
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Hi, Lars. My name's
Hey.
Ed. Oh, yeah. Just to get back to the music, was there a song when you watched this back that you felt got a new lease of life, a new set of balls in the context of the film?
Well, thank you for asking that. I've always had a weak spot for The Memory Remains. There are one or two nameless people within the ranks that think that The Memory Remains may not be the finest moment of Metallica's career, which we respect. I think The Memory Remains plays really well in this film, and the way it interacts with the audience. I think it's gotten a great... we love playing that song and the interaction with the audience at the end and just the tempo and the weight of it. So having that in the film is really cool. Obviously, there may be a few astute observers who know that there are some songs that were played that are not in the film. It was not so much about these are better songs. It was like what songs would work better within the context of the film. So everything about this film is just really about making the best film possible. So it's probably not a secret that, say, Sad But True is not the film. But it just wasn't working within the context of the story and the dynamics of the set list and so on. And so, but The Memory Remains, I think Cyanide also works really well in this film. Justice works really well in this film. Say again? Speak up, man. Thank you. Yeah, so, there's, post-production on this film was insane. We spent the last year editing it because so much of it is like, how do you weave the story in and out of this concert, and what songs work and what songs don't work, and, should some of the songs be edited, and, then we started moving songs around in sequence, and I can be a little protective of the set list since I'm the one that writes the set list, and all of a sudden, there was like, can we move this song over here? No, you fucking can't touch my set list. And then I started opening up to that for the better of the picture, for the better of the film and all that. So it was a long process, but I think I may have answered your question now.
I think so. That was good.
I just don't want this to end. Let's close the store, let everybody go, and let's just keep going this all night. One more.
I can't deny, Lars, can I? Come on. You choose someone for the very final question.
I choose somebody.
You choose somebody. Someone put a hand up would be a good thing. Okay.
Him? Okay. This dude. What? Say again? Oh, well, thank you.
Ew, just pass it. Oh,
thank
there
you.
we go. Let me just pass it down that way.
It's a silly question,
Hey, wait.
We'll end on a silly question.
Who are you, sir?
Hey, how are you? Just wanted to know, what was it like playing right underneath those massive Tesla coils?
Yes. Okay.
Testicles? Is that what you said? I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
Tesla coils.
Tesla coils. Pardon my French.
Test it.
Okay.
It's like, man, yeah.
Hairy. It was very hairy. No. It was pretty nutty. Because.
Hey!
Whoa! Thank you. How do I top that one?
That's a pretty high point to go out on.
Because this film this is not filmed on tour. So most concert films, when you see they're filmed on tour, so you're 150 shows into something that functions. We did a few warm-up shows in Mexico City, and then we started filming. So all the shtick and all the theater and all that stuff, a lot of it wasn't really dialed in like it would be if you were like a year into a tour. So a lot of that stuff was a little, some of it was working, some of it wasn't working, some of it sort of occasionally worked in true Spinal Tap fashion, of course. So those Tesla coils, when you have a guy who stands there and tells you every night, do not get off of your position, Hetfield and Hammond Trio, don't cross this line. You could get zapped. You will die instantly. All this type of stuff. It just puts things in a different perspective as you're sitting there. And as I'm sitting there playing, I was looking up there, and I can be pretty fast on my feet. And I always, I felt that if there was something that was going to go astray, that I would just quickly, I was convinced that I could beat the lightning or beat the zap away from the drums and jump off before it. So I sat and played close attention, but it was pretty crazy stuff. And with all the pyro and the statue, there was a couple nights where the statue fell and leveled the drum kit and all this type of stuff in true Spinal Tap fashion. So it was pretty edgy, the film, because it was not really rehearsed that much because it was a film and not a tour,
Good final question. We could keep going, but unfortunately, I've kind of got to wrap it up now. The film, Through the Never, is out tomorrow. Check it out. It's quite a staggering piece of work, as is my guest. Ladies and gentlemen, give it up, Lars Ulrich!
Thank you.